So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey?
Today I want to talk about Dark Souls.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Now hold on, I know this is the billionth Dark Souls video essay you've seen this week, but I fucking promise this one is different, so please just give me a chance to explain. Dark Souls is a series that needs no introduction. I'm not gonna waste your time and explain why people love the game so much, but personally, I'd never even tried one until earlier this year. My first game in the series was Elden Ring, and in such a short time it catapulted me headfirst into the genre. I had a bit of a rocky start.
Be wary of left. Oh! Why don't this game got a motherfucking tutorial, man?
It does.
No, it don't.
Yes, it does.
No, it don't. I never got one.
But once I got the hang of it, I couldn't get enough of this gameplay. It sort of brought back my love for a single-player experience in video games, which has been fading away the older I get, especially with the dwindling quality of new releases. Like, why the fuck would I play this when I can play Fortnite instead?
McDonald's, may I help you?
Hi, I was just trying to put in a mobile order, and because I didn't see it on the menu on there. I was wondering, do you guys carry the Durr Burger?
The what?
The Durr Burger from
Yeah,
Fortnite? No? Oh, damn.
I used to play all kinds of games for their story and their worlds, their characters, and their gameplay, and was more than content to play them all alone. But in recent years, I've been reduced to a woke mind zombie, a corporate-trained consumer of cheap slop, an enjoyer of multiplayer games with their fucking free-to-play models and battle passes, or the trendy ones you pay $20 for and play it with some friends for like 3 days, or the random breakout indie titles that are actually really good, but you pay $20 for it and you play it with some friends for like 3 days.
Bro, that scared me so bad.
Or even the games that are damn near old enough to vote that became the default backup plan for when you have nothing else to play. Whatever the case may be, I've been playing almost nothing but these kinds of games for the sake of blowing off steam and bonding with my buddies, rarely ever getting true enjoyment out of them with their ridiculously simple gameplay loops. Elden Ring reminded me what it's like to play a game actually worthy of being called a AAA title, and to truly be immersed in its world. There was a childlike magic around every corner I turned, every castle.
Oh, that scared the fuck out of me.
Every hallway, every path in the forest, every character I met. It all added up to an experience I'll never forget. Every victory I earned and every obstacle I managed to overcome left me with a rewarding sense of accomplishment. Like, holy shit, who knew being unemployed could be this awesome? However, despite all the love I have for Elden Ring, eventually I'd had my time with it and I needed to figure out what was next. If this is what Souls games were like, I wanted to play them all. I typically like to start from the beginning when I deep dive into something, so I knew I had to start with Dark Souls 1.
Hop in this ride and we gon' teach you how to bip. Blacking in this Civic, get no fucks about a 10. See us on a block, I bet the ops ain't doing shit. If you ain't putting for this, but I'm sorry, bro, then you can't hit. That's who I do it for. 40 been this ride, tryna been a block, then been a couple more. My brother booked for GTA, gon' win it till he home. I'm tryna leave the trenches, then go post up with a foreign on. Hey, how you coming? Tay behind the wheel, I got the ox, now this shit bumping. Mr. Dog, bitch, I can't go out like Travis Hunter. Just be posted on the block and police think we up to something. In a smoke shop with fake ID, I'm something like McLovin. I like to get fried. High as fuck, that's how I'm finna spend my whole life. I'm tryna smoke a blunt with Snoop before a nigga die. Hop off the whip, then we gon' bip. If you don't know how to bip, then you should hop up in this ride. Hop in this ride and we gon' teach you how to bip. Blacking in this Civic, get no fucks about.
Now I could have bought this game on my computer. Hell, I could have bought this game on the Xbox. But at the time, life was pretty busy and I found myself out of the house most of the time. Naturally, I decided to buy the game on Nintendo Switch. This might have been a mistake. The performance on the Switch is decent at the best of times and barely playable at the worst of times. Now I could complain about the controls, cause trust me, they're abysmal. My B button gets stuck, my right bumper gets stuck, I have no idea what's going on with my right Joy-Con. And I occasionally get a bit of minor stick drift with my left stick, but back in high school I managed to beat Dying Light on the Switch, so I'm pretty sure I could fly a fucking plane with these Joy-Cons. However, Dark Souls is a game that requires precise input and quick reactions, and right from the jump I was getting frustrated. The more progress I made, the harder it would be to start over if I wanted to get the game on another platform. So I said fuck it and decided I would power through no matter what it takes. Going from Elden Ring on the PC to Dark Souls on the Switch was a skill check I just wasn't prepared for, and I was close to giving up several times in the early game. I wasn't even playing it outside my house anymore. It got to the point where I was only playing it in bed when I couldn't sleep, like a physical manifestation of a fucking night terror. I struggled with the early bosses and was told that cheesing them was the only way to get past them. I thought to myself, who the fuck would design a boss fight where you have to cheese it just to win? I complained to my friends about the quote-unquote unfair difficulty, and was met with a response as old as the series itself: get good.
You tripping, bro?
I was upset about how little bonfires there were, I was raging at the runbacks, getting destroyed by clusters of enemies, and was trying to adapt to the general jank of the game. At one point, I even called it a wall-to-wall hack and slash. I began to think that Dark Souls 1 was just too difficult for me, or that it was just poorly designed and didn't age that well. I felt like the gameplay was dated and the level design was straight up bad, as I frequently had no fucking clue where to go next. I experienced this in Elden Ring, but at least that game had a map with markers and an open world to choose how to get from place to place, not to mention a million sites of grace along the way so you never have to backtrack too far. But in Dark Souls 1, you're probably gonna have to look up where to go a lot, and you better pray you remember every enemy and hazard along the way and figure out how to get there safely, because one mistake and oh, for fuck's sake. Hello, Firelink. I hated the fact that every death meant getting instantly sent back so far and losing so much progress over and over again. Elden Ring conditioned me to take checkpoints for granted. In this game, you will travel for fucking miles before you find another bonfire. The game was starting to raise my blood pressure to unhealthy levels, and at many points in time I thought that this shit is just not fun. I was about ready to throw in the towel. At the lowest of lows, my time with Dark Souls 1 was soon to come to an early end. But then, something happened. I don't know exactly when it happened. I couldn't tell you where I was in the game, what boss I was fighting, or what area I was exploring. But at some point, something clicked. It wasn't immediate, but I slowly found myself spending more and more time on the game. And eventually I realized I was actually enjoying it, and I didn't really know when or why my feelings changed. Maybe I just finally understood the slower pace of the combat, or maybe I just took so long in the early game that I got overleveled and wasn't struggling as much. Was I only enjoying the game now because it was getting easier? Fuck no! The game was not getting easier, but I was enjoying it. So what changed? The answer might be simpler than you think. I started to fall in love with the infectious charm of the game. A charm that, on first glance, seems almost deliberately designed to be as obnoxious as possible. This game feels like fucking work, and I don't work 40 hours a week to come home and put in overtime. However, I learned something in Elden Ring, something I somehow forgot by the end of the game. I was so deep in, I completely blacked out how I felt when I first started it. Well, I remember it now. The one simple truth about Souls games is that they are supposed to piss you off.
Well, howdy there, you fine Americanos. We at From Software have been hard at work to deliver you an experience you won't forget, even if you want to. Just look at this happy customer.
This is literally better than sex.
Not that he would know, but don't just take our word for it. Try it yourself. We call this here fangled video game Dark Souls, and it's sure to piss you clean the fuck off, man.
I'm pissed clean the fuck off, man!
Ah, another satisfied customer. You see, our company has recognized a problem in the world. Everything is getting dumbed down, streamlined, minimalized, and spoon-fed for sissified pussies to consume down their fat fuck throats. Now, do you want to live like the people in Wall-E, or do you want to get your sausage finger having hands dirty, you fucking good-for-nothing twink? It's time to stop being a virgin so casually and start being competitive about it. So come on, bitch boy, pick up the sticks, walk into that castle and fight that 400-foot-tall dragon. Or would you rather go play Fortnite with your homeboys, hitting the gritty while you tickle each other's privates? You disgust me.
That's right. I remember now. This was the whole reason I was playing the game all along. It's that feeling, that intangible goal in the distance with countless obstacles before it that you keep overcoming on your way to finally say you were able to beat them all. Dark Souls is a challenge, something that has somehow been lost on us in recent times, and you have to accept that it's going to be challenging if you want to enjoy it. A lot of people don't like to be challenged. If your game doesn't have yellow paint on the floor telling you exactly where to go and quick time events to make sure you pay attention to their stupid ass cutscenes, then critics are gonna rate that shit a 2 out of 10.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
People don't want to think anymore, let alone make decisions. But somehow, Souls games review incredibly. Even idiots can make sense of this game. They might suck at it and never beat it, but anyone will tell you how good it is. Dark Souls feels like a love letter to the past, bringing a new generation a challenge that we haven't seen in a long time, and doing it with a level of quality that everyone can acknowledge. Look at this dude's 70-year-old dad playing this shit. Speaking of the past, I've been falling down a rabbit hole of retro games recently, and I've grown very fond of the Castlevania series.
He's dead. He's fucking dead. Soon. Oh no! Get off me, you fat bastard! Yeah!
Oh shit!
Yeah! Fuck this fucking... Fuck the PlayStation!
At first, I just fucked with the aesthetics. Holy shit, this game looks cool. But then I had an epiphany. I started to notice eerie coincidences between this game's design and Dark Souls. Not necessarily in the aesthetics, as while there is some similarities, Dark Souls draws much more heavily from fantasy stories like Berserk. I'm talking more about the gameplay itself. You start with next to nothing but a weak weapon and the objective to kill anything that moves. As you explore the world around you, you level yourself up and get better gear. And just when you feel confident, there's a boss fight. Now, bosses are the bread and butter of Souls games. Elden Ring and Dark Souls were the only games I had ever played where the boss fights were the main event. The whole reason to play. The spectacle that made you pay $60 fucking for it in the first place. Maybe I just haven't played enough games, but I can't remember another series matching the craft of a Souls-like boss fight. Dying Light had boss fights, if you want to call them that. They fucking sucked. Most games these days, even ones I love like Insomniac's Spider-Man, still use those cheap-ass QuickTime event cutscenes to dump the lore down your throat before you get a mediocre battle with a dumbed-down version of whoever you're fighting. It's just disappointing, man. Dark Souls made me feel like the actual dark fantasy knight. Just a man in his metal boots with his sword, standing up against beasts of colossal size and strength. Killing them was really like a battle to the death, as you risk your sanity to keep going and keep trying.
Oh no! No! Holy shit!
It meant something, or at least made you feel something. And in Castlevania, while they don't nearly measure up to that level of quality, there was a rudimentary concept for this kind of boss fight. Castlevania games aren't known for being easy any more than Dark Souls is, and it's clear that one of FromSoft's goals is to sort of reinvent this era of gaming. The point I'm making here is not that Dark Souls is a spiritual successor to Castlevania, or even that they drew inspiration from it. I believe that with every game, they are trying to perfect the ideas that those old-ass games got right. The idea that your journey will be difficult, that you will often find yourself underprepared and flustered, and that you will need to explore and experiment to succeed and find your way. And that you will do it all no matter how hard and tedious it is, because they're confident that the world they have crafted around the struggle is intriguing enough to keep you coming back. In the olden days of gaming, these qualities were born mostly from limitations, but FromSoft does it for the love of the game, literally. While modern games are attempting to be more cinematic and take a fat shit all over you with lore dumps, Souls games take a different approach. There are no QuickTime events here. In fact, there's barely any cutscenes at all. You might see one for traveling to a new part of the map or for a boss fight, but that's about it. Dark Souls doesn't dump its lore down your throat. In fact, it couldn't give less of a shit if you know why this fucking dragon has 7 heads, or why it's just chilling in Cedar Rapids. Just go kill it. You have to dig for that shit, or watch a 10-hour YouTube video where some nerd explains it for you. Personally, I don't really play these games for their lore, so I haven't gone out of my way to learn much that isn't apparent in the game itself.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
However, the exploration and the hidden secrets around every corner brings me to my next point. This game is meant to be played with the wiki open at all times. This is something I had to learn quickly if I wanted to make any real progress. Like you're telling me I have to find my way around this gate, grab this key, take it across this bridge where a dragon tries to burn my ass alive, just to unlock this door and make my way down just to get to the next area of the game? I ran around for hours trying to figure out where to go next, and this is what they wanted me to figure out? How the fuck would I know that? And that's not even the worst example, it's just early in the game and it was the first time I realized I was gonna need to crack open a guide. Get a load of this. If you buy the DLC, you wanna know how to actually play it? Let's assume you've already gotten pretty far in the game, so you already killed Ornstein the Smo, and you got the Lord Vessel. First, you have to kill that 7-headed dragon in the water. Okay, no big deal. That's basically like Moog in Elden Ring, not that obscure or hard to figure out. But wait, after that, you have to reload the area, walk down a narrow path along the waterfall, and back here you find a golden crystal golem. Kill that dude and save the bitch inside. Oh, that's pretty fun. That's a nice little secret, but not that crazy. Wait, still no DLC. You actually have to go way the fuck over here to the Duke's Archives now, and kill this specific golem. If you came here earlier in your playthrough and you killed him already, it doesn't count. You have to come back now and do it again anyway. He drops you the broken pendant. Now, finally, if you go back to the spot behind the waterfall, you will now see a black portal that takes you to the DLC. Let me start by acknowledging that this is really cool, before asking, how the fuck was anybody supposed to ever figure this out? Surely this must have taken years to— oh, FromSoft put the instructions on their blog. You see what I mean? This game practically requires you to have some sort of additional knowledge ready at all times.
That's... nobody would have figured that.
It's the dumbest thing, I know.
So how did you figure it out? YouTube, Google.
As frustrating as this design may be to newcomers, it results in another piece of the magic of Souls games. They may be single player and encourage you to think for yourself, but at their core they are designed to be a shared experience. You have to rely on the word of others, people who have been in your shoes before and learned something that they decided to share with the rest of the community. One man did not discover everything himself. This pool of information was built by the efforts of many players. You think we have it bad trying to play this game now? Imagine being the first guy to play Dark Souls and you're wondering, how the fuck do I open this door? We have the privilege to look that shit up. Some people may be turned off by this, but I think it's beautiful and I actually enjoy researching small portions while figuring the bulk out by myself. Some purists probably think this is lame or not the way you're supposed to play, but they're not going to stand up from their cuck chair to do shit about it. This is the way I played, and it helped me to appreciate the game in a way I couldn't before, because I just didn't understand it yet. It certainly helped me get my shit together in the early game, where I wasted a lot of time going to places I had no business being at yet. The confusion is the main reason I hated this game so much at first. Elden Ring taught me to take the hits in stride, but Dark Souls taught me how to stand back up after being beaten to a pulp.
Go off the fucking cliff!
In my opinion, learning all you can on your first playthrough is the way to go. Souls games are extremely replayable, especially with the New Game Plus option. You keep your character and most of your inventory and start the journey all over again. I've now beaten the game several times, and it only gets more rewarding with each new beginning, because I already know the world inside and out, and can use my prior knowledge to come up with a plan on what order to tackle objectives and decide what I want to do next. Maybe I want to try a new combat method, a different weapon, or maybe try some magic. There are so many reasons to replay the game, so I don't mind the research and learning process when starting a new Souls game. In fact, I now welcome it. This also goes back to the earlier point that FromSoft strives to reinvent the golden age of gaming. Back then, games were filled with secrets and obscure paths to progress through as well, except back then there was no internet to look up the answers. In those days they had magazines, physical guides, and word of mouth. Today we have forums, wikis, and YouTube. It's not so different. Enough with the glazing, now it's time to start bitching again. But first, you remember what I said before about bad level design? God, I was so fucking stupid for thinking that. Before Elden Ring, Dark Souls 1 was the most open that a world in a Souls game ever was. Notice that I'm not saying it's an open world, just that the world is open. That's because, unlike most games in the series, Dark Souls gives you a few more options about the order you want to explore and fight bosses. It's not totally non-linear, but it is impressive. The world is interconnected, and your home base of Firelink Shrine is essentially in the center of it all. Most places on the map can be reached by starting here and making your way out. And when you make your way out, each and every location is packed with details, secrets, and awe-inspiring views. This is part of the game's charm I mentioned earlier. The level of care that went into every inch of the map is a marvel to this day. That is, until you reach the end game. It's ugly, empty, and more tedious than anything that comes before it. And it really sucks because most of the game deserves its praise and I've come to absolutely love traveling through the world, but the latter portion of the game almost ruins it. What the fuck happened here? It feels like some of the later areas are completely unfinished, and that's because they are. Bosses are reused as regular ass enemies spammed in clusters, there are long stretches of dreadfully boring emptiness, and there's boss fights that are notoriously annoying and unimaginative. Not to mention most of it is just fucking ugly to look at, if you can even see anything at all. I'm mostly talking about Demon Ruins, Lost Izalith, and the Tomb of the Giants. These are the ones that suck farts straight out of my ass, but some of the other areas around this point in the game are also pretty mid and annoying to get through. Even when they manage to look pretty and aren't too difficult, there's just none of the open exploration that we had earlier in the game. There's no reason to wander around looking for details and secrets, you just want to be done with it at this point. I played through the game once again to get new footage for this video, and I duped Souls along the way just to make it more bearable because I knew this was what was coming. Dark Souls 1 had a rushed development, this isn't news to anyone, but goddamn, I wish they were able to flesh the whole world out to the quality it could have been. There's not really much more I have to say about this portion of the game, it just sucks, but everyone and their mom already knows that. Instead, I want to bring up some other criticisms I have that may be a bit more specific and personal. Now, the whole thesis for this video is that I was wrong about Dark Souls at first, and I want to tell the story of how I came to love it, but I just wouldn't be doing it right if I didn't acknowledge where it falls short. So, first things first, fuck Blight Town. Not a hot take, I know. Everyone hates Blighttown. But you don't get it. Fuck Blighttown. Even now, after beating this game many times, I cannot fucking stand this place. Get me the fuck out of here. I hate this shit worse than the late game areas I mentioned before. It's not like it's unfinished or as lazy as the other areas, quite the opposite. No, it seems like they put plenty of effort into it. They went full balls to the walls to make this whole place feel like a fucking punishment. My fault for playing your game, bro. That's my bad. I'll just pack up my shit and leave. Clearly I'm not welcome here. My current strat in a new playthrough is to walk in, get down, light the closest bonfire, run like hell through Goo Lagoon, kill the spider bitch with the big old titties, and then get the fuck up out of Blighttown by doing all that shit in reverse. I know the purpose it serves, just a difficult level where you're never really safe. And that idea, as well as the whole swampy hell aesthetic, has been replicated in future installments in the series. But holy fuck man, there is nothing to appreciate over here. It's ugly as shit, probably smells like shit, and there's nothing to stick around for. You only need to come here to kill one boss and ring a bell. I mean, there could be other shit here, but I wouldn't fucking know. I may be white, but in a horror movie scenario, I am not the one investigating the scary noise. I'm getting the fuck up out of here. So fuck you, fuck this place, fuck those flying bugs that are impossible to hit, fuck the poison water, fuck the spinning elevator, and fuck the queen. This is America. My president is black and my Lambo is blue. Enough said. Now for something that may be a little bit more controversial. I'm not really sure what the general consensus here is, but I remember hearing that Anne Orlando was the coolest area in the game. I was hyped up. I remember the first time I saw it. I was staying the night at a friend's house. We were cracking some cold ones and playing Elden Ring. After everyone else went to sleep, my nocturnal ass whipped out the Nintendo Switch and started playing. I had just gotten through Sense Fortress, another area that annoyed the piss out of me, and that's when I saw it. It was fucking incredible. I thought, oh boy, this is the peak I was waiting for. I saw the giant skyline and all the towers and windows and thought, man, this is gonna be awesome. In Elden Ring, if you see a place like this, you can just go and explore the whole thing, so I figured it would be the same here. I lit the bonfire and started my journey through Anne Orlando. And then I died. A lot. This was the most tedious bullshit I had seen so far. It took me something like 2 hours just to get into the building. I was absolutely mouthing, but at least I made it. Only to realize that the mirage I saw before was nothing but a lie. You get to explore a few rooms and hallways and that's it. The Ornstein and Smo duo boss almost made up for it, as it is one of my favorite fights in the game and one that feels way ahead of its time. But the damage was done.
My disappointment is immeasurable. And my day is ruined.
There's a bunch of silver knights and trap chests all over the place, a few cool secrets, and of course the boss fight, which after you beat it, you can go to the next room to get the Lord Vessel from the giant booby woman, allowing you to fast travel. So it's an important area in the mid game as well as a serious skill check, and you come away from it with a lot more than when you went in. And it's a beautiful view, but again, just a mirage. I wish they put the full focus of this area on the actual city, instead of the tedious bullshit before it. Personally, Anne Orlando has my least favorite run back in the game. After you first venture out from the bonfire, there's a whole building full of narrow ledges for you to fall to your death from on your way to push a lever and grant yourself access to the main area. And then when you inevitably die, you get to go all the way back to that bonfire and run a fucking marathon, wait for the elevator, then get running again. There's about a bajillion of the most annoying enemies in the entire game back to back, just begging you to make one mistake and start from the beginning all over again. I want to give a special fuck you to the snipers up on the wall. I probably died on this ledge here more than I died anywhere else in my entire playthrough. Only after all of that do you get inside and realize how little there actually is. Okay, I'm done talking about Anne Orlando. Let's talk about something else. Speaking of runbacks, while Anne Orlando takes the cake as the one that nearly caused me a fatal cardiac arrest, there are many others that deserve to land whatever developers helped to design them in their own personal circle of hell. The game doesn't even try to ease you into them at all. No. It throws you right in the deep end from the jump and tells you to get fucked. You might be expecting me to talk about how I came to appreciate them or that this is part of the charm of the game or something, but you'd be dead wrong. If these runbacks are so important to the gameplay loop and add so much to the experience, why were they slowly phased out in later games? Like I said before, you can't walk a few feet in Elden Ring without tripping over a checkpoint. I think this works better because that game has a much larger scale, but it's not like the lack of runbacks makes it any easier. Elden Ring is still harder than Dark Souls in my experience. It just knows where to let up on you, focusing on making the world more engaging and intuitive rather than forcing you to retrace your steps over and over to figure out where to go. In my opinion, this is the way to do it, and it shows you that even FromSoft isn't afraid to evolve and modernize their games a bit while still retaining what makes them so special. The places that Dark Souls falls short in are where Elden Ring thrives and innovates. These changes were slow and gradually shifted the series with each entry. I've played some of Dark Souls 3, and while the runbacks were still a bitch in that game, I could see a direct link between the old and new. It felt more like Dark Souls but controlled more like Elden Ring. The movement in the games has gotten faster as people are now used to the Souls-like gameplay and are ready for more challenges, and the games have gotten arguably more streamlined as the series has gone on. What would 2011 Miyazaki think if he saw what he would do with Elden Ring over a decade later? Maybe he would want the game to be more tedious and slow, but I think it's a perfect evolution for the franchise, weeding out what hindered the experience but still packing a hefty punch with its difficulty. The game is still sure to piss you clean the fuck off, man.
Now why would he do that? I'm about to skip this gay ass shit. What? No, I didn't.
It's clear that over time, even he realized that things needed to change. And that's not the only way that the franchise has evolved either. Something that Dark Souls 1 is known for more than the newer games is how it loves to troll. New players will be in for a lot of surprises, like exploding barrels rolling down at them, only to be gone the next time you go back. It's something that only really tricks you once, but that trick will stick with you and make you paranoid at every corner until you remember the world inside and out. These trolls are so ingrained in me that I have them all mentally mapped out and know how to avoid them in every new playthrough. The game still trolls experienced players as well, most notably with the narrow ledges that the game loves to put you on. It seems like most areas have at least one portion where you're stuck on a platform just big enough to stand on, while enemies do everything in their power to try to knock you off. Now so far in this chapter, I've mostly covered how the game was made by a bunch of sadistic assholes who made it their entire goal to inflict as much suffering on you as possible. But there's more to talk about when it comes to my grievances with Dark Souls 1. I can accept the trolling and the artificial difficulty, and even understand the lazy unfinished areas because the game still offers so much in the rest of the experience. And these problems are something you can mostly avoid once you've made a note of them and learned how to maneuver them accordingly. Except for Bed of Chaos. Bed of Chaos still sucks no matter how many times I beat it. But anyways, moving on. Now I want to talk about some things in the game that just haven't aged that well. Let's start with the obvious, the movement. It's slow, stiff, and clunky. In 2011, there were already games like Mirror's Edge, Assassin's Creed, and Prince of Persia, which all were praised for their quick and snappy controls and movement. Sure, Dark Souls 1 was meant to be taken slower and be difficult, but with the direction of the later games in the series, it's sort of jarring to come back and see how truly outdated this movement feels. Not to mention there's no jump button, which was still standard in all Souls games until Elden Ring finally introduced a dedicated jump button, which absolutely boggles my mind. Instead, we have to tap the sprint button while sprinting, and it's not really a jump as much as a lunge. You see how this might cause some problems. This may be a skill issue, but I often find myself accidentally lunging forward when I just meant to sprint because my finger doesn't stay still enough and the controller thinks I let go and press down again.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Why did he jump? There's no fucking jump button in this game.
It was a misinput. Calm down! You calm the fuck down!
This can be a recipe for disaster when paired with the notorious narrow ledges. The game's worlds were designed around this distinct choice, but with how well it's handled in Elden Ring, it just makes me wonder why it wasn't standard to begin with. I mentioned how the movement was sped up in later titles, but that was an understatement. Games like Bloodborne require quick reactions and movement as a heavy emphasis was put on speed. Again, this is something that I think Elden Ring handles much better. The movement isn't slow or clunky, it feels fast and responsive, making the whole experience feel much more free and lucid. This ties the game together perfectly with the open world and even riding your horse, because all these mechanics emphasize player freedom and exploration, which is what the series is all about, besides fighting horrors beyond comprehension.
And once again, I've made the perfect segue into my next point.
Speaking of quicker movement and horrors beyond comprehension, the boss fight is where all of a Souls game's mechanics come together as you prove your worth in a battle against a giant monster. With that being said, most of the bosses in Dark Souls 1 have not aged that well. There are some standout iconic boss fights like Ornstein and Smough, Sif the Daug, Gwyn, and Artorias, but most of the other fights pale in comparison. While they may be great concepts with an awesome design, a great soundtrack, interesting gimmicks, or horrible gimmicks, or a cool location to fight in, they just don't hold up to the standards that evolved over time. The rapid improvement in movement and the focus being shifted even heavier towards bosses being the main events in each game leaves Dark Souls 1 lagging behind. I still love a lot of the bosses in this game and enjoy most of them in each new run, but at a certain point they just become too easy and predictable because a lot of them are just slow and weak. For a game set on being so difficult, these bosses don't nearly measure up to what would come later on. This isn't really a big issue I have with the game, it's just a place where there was a lot of room to improve. And improve they did, you fucking assholes. But let me be perfectly clear. Despite its flaws and the gripes I have with the game, I love it. Dark Souls 1 is now one of my favorite games of all time, damn near rivaling Elden Ring for a spot in my top 3. I've pointed out these flaws because they're important and paint a fuller picture, but they don't outweigh the positives. When I first picked up the game, I didn't know almost anything about it yet, and through this video I've told you pretty much everything I learned along the way. On my first playthrough, I was ready to call the game all sorts of things that I would look back on later and regret. That's why I'm making this video. Dark Souls 1, I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game. My only frame of reference prior to diving in was Elden Ring, if you couldn't tell by now given that I compared the two games for 90% of the fucking video, so I went into Dark Souls expecting something entirely different than what it was. and the differences were so jarring that I developed a hate boner that could only be satiated by shit talking the game. I admit it, I fell for the rage bait. I had somehow forgotten the fundamental ideas that Souls games are built upon at their core, and was abruptly taken aback when I struggled, blaming the game for my own skill issues. Dark Souls is not a game that you just beat. It's one that beats the hell out of you until you get it. A lot of the things I said and felt are almost comical to look back on now. I thought the praise it received from its diehard fanbase was some sort of gaslighting technique. But of course they were right, or I wouldn't be here alongside them doing the same damn thing. But back then, I didn't realize they were right yet. For some reason, I scrutinized Dark Souls for the same things that I experienced and learned from in Elden Ring. When Elden Ring left me stranded in the middle of nowhere with next to no direction, I thought it was genius. But for some reason I judged Dark Souls much harder when I arrived at Firelink and wasn't sure where to go next. The game doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't have a safety net, and it doesn't give a shit about your comfort zone. It's brutal, but it expertly teaches you how to do better with each failure. You have to be willing to learn, and it doesn't tell you that with a long ass tutorial. It does it by breaking you down until you're desperate to understand. You stop blaming the game and you start blaming yourself. A death is no longer a failure, it's a learning experience. Every loss makes the win mean even more. Unlocking a shortcut that cuts your run back in half feels like a massive leap in progress, fueling you just enough to put up with whatever bullshit the game has in store next. Figuring out how to level up your flasks, the first time you kindle a bonfire, finally understanding what the fuck humanities are for, and doing it all on your own makes you feel like you finally found a way to fight back. And when you finally say, yeah, I'm fucking lost, it's perfectly fine to crack open a guide. These games are all about learning as much as you can and mastering every aspect and mechanic to overcome every challenge. I came in with a closed mind, stubborn to learn or understand, but by the end the game left me feeling grateful for the experience. It was a difficult and painful journey, which wasn't helped by the slower pace and somewhat dated mechanics. But nonetheless, Dark Souls has become one of my go-to games. What started as a literal nightmare has turned into a casual pastime. I genuinely hold it to be one of my favorite experiences of all time, and no matter how many times I played through it, I'm still captivated by its charm and world. I hope I've done a good job explaining how I came to understand and appreciate this game, despite being so off-put from it at first, while also addressing the issues I still have with it. It's far from perfect, and I'm okay with that. So Dark Souls, I'm sorry. And thank you. And thank you for watching this video. This is definitely the most effort I've put into a YouTube video, and I hope it was enjoyable to watch. I know I probably missed a lot of good points or maybe said some things that you disagree with, so feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm not an expert or anything, but I do want to dive into more Souls games in the future. This might be the first time you've seen content of mine, so here's a bit of a lore dump. I'm a film student, and when I don't have essays to write or projects to work on, I think I'd like to keep my skills sharp by making content out of the things I like. It seems like a good hobby for me, but I'll be doing more than just video essays. If you want to see more videos like this on other media, whether it be games or movies or whatever, go on ahead and hit that subscribe button and let me know what you want to see. It feels pretty corny to say that, but I think I'm supposed to or whatever. Anyways, my friend Lorelei recently did the Drunk Souls challenge, where she took a shot every time she died in Dark Souls 1.
I know! Fuck!
It's a funny video, and I'll leave a link in the description to check it out. As for what's next on my channel, I'm going to be working on a Dank Souls challenge, which is the same thing, but I'm smoking weed every time I die. If that sounds fun to you, make sure you don't miss it. But for now, that's all I have to say, so have a good one, and stay toxic. Sunday out.
I feel like this berserk, I'm carrying a sword, too big to call a sword. Don't talk much, just carry sticks, that's how you move without a word. Press this on the vinyl, play it backwards just to hear the message. Ruin this one, need another vessel, searching through the red. I'm making 30 rounds, when will it stop? I put like 30 rounds inside a car. He's off, dude, cut him off. I'm sitting back and watching aliens, who quickly gotta save again. Put 2 fingers on the Ouija board, I'm asking for some names again. Speaking to the revenant.